service numbers are 572-0383 and 572-0215. Rev-Up St. Lucia, the alpha of radio.
Hi, this is Lotus. Join me every Wednesday from 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. on Rev-Up St. Lucia 97.1 FM for Unrestricted. What we don't talk about, what we should talk about, and what we will be talking about. Don't forget to join me every Wednesday from 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. on Rev-Up St. Lucia 97.1 FM for Unrestricted.
We'd like to apologize to our listeners and viewers for the break in continuity. Just had a few technical issues which have been sorted out. So let's get right into our program for today. Unrestricted, hosted by Lotus. Lotus, a very good morning to you.
Good morning, Andre. Good morning, everyone. Good morning to our YouTube watchers, X, Facebook.
That's right.
And normal radio listeners.
Across the globe.
Across the globe and St. Lucia.
As well.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to another Unrestricted. And this morning, we're going to get into a little bit of technology. As you know, it's not a rural topic, Andre. And Unrestricted is really versatile. So we like to get into certain things it's not only, a deep discussion about ourselves and the things we do. It's also deep as well, but I think it's a discussion that we need to have when it comes to our education. We want to talk about this morning, Andre, the problem that is Chat GPT and how it's affecting students and adults alike. So it's Chat GPT, Andre. A while ago, I watched you call Siri. Siri, call whoever. And so nowadays we have AI and, the whole AI discussion and people were afraid of it and people were concerned. But now certain aspects of it, we're using it, I think, to our detriment. And one of the things I wanted to discuss this morning is Chat GPT. Now, it's not everything that's bad about AI. So I'm not here to say, everything is bad. And we just want to discuss sometimes the balance is off, right? So when you hear Chat GPT, not everybody knows, but what is Chat GPT? It's very common nowadays. You hear people talk about it. It's an artificial intelligence chatbot that uses natural language processing to create human-like conversational dialogue. So it's like an assistant. You open your phone. Even now, I open my phone, and there's a Meta, like an assistant. As soon as you open your computer these days, there's something to tell you. Do you need help? What do you need help with? Now, it's nice when a lot of us cannot do certain things, or we are very lazy, or we are kind of, we want assistance in certain things. It's nice. No, so I'm not saying it's not good. But I think this morning, that's what we want to open the discussion about, Andre. And I hope that the listeners, especially the IT people or people involved in artificial intelligence, they can probably call and give their opinions, because people like me, as I look at, the landscape of students and how they use it or not, even the teachers as well, we begin to have discussions around students stifling their creativity and their ability to think critically, right? The language model can respond to questions and compose various written content, including articles, social media posts, essays, codes, and emails. So chatbot really can do, it can do quite a few things. The GPT stands for Generative Pre-trained Transformer. You know what's a transformer?
Of course.
So, right? Which refers to how ChatGPT processes requests and formulates responses. So it's trained with reinforcement learning through human feedback and reward models that rank the best responses. So this feedback helps with machine learning to improve future responses. So really, it is if you want to say in a layman term, it is a robot or an assistant to help with a myriad of things. So we're going to get into that discussion, Andre. You seem to are you happy with ChatGPT, Andre? Have you been using it?
No, at all. Yeah.
No, Andre?
No.
It's very common. The little ones can tell you. Maybe Nairobi, if you ask Nairobi, she might probably know. It came about in November 2022. It gained global popularity and the highest percentage of users at the time, 15.22, they were residing in the USA. But of course now, when we look at our young ones, and just a lot of people, we are tech savvy, so the children get into things sometimes you don't even know about it. So most of them would have known or heard of ChatGPT because a lot of them are using it. So what can it do? It is a jack of all trades, making it a handy tool for young professionals and marketers. And, it can do quite a few things. So chatting, it can hold natural conversations, perfect for customer support and interactive marketing. So really, it can help in a lot of things. And I like it when I get on a website and maybe I'm not too sure of what I want or what I'm looking for, there's an assistant to answer some of your questions. I mean, a lot of that happened in banking, where you see a lot of the banking apps have, do you need somebody to help you? And sometimes you want to find out something maybe about your deposits, or you want to ask a particular question, and they're there. That help is there. Writing, ChatGPT can whip up articles, social media posts, and even code. Great for content marketers looking to save time. It can also debug for developers. ChatGPT can debug and write code snippets, saving you from pulling your hair out. So it can do a lot of things. Creative writing, if you need help with a story, a poem, or script, it's got your back. So it really can provide a lot of help. And if you have different tasks, so if you're chatting, it engages in natural conversation. So for instance, in terms of customer support, like I just said, interactive marketing, if you're writing, it generates text and codes. So if you're writing an article, you have to do some homework. It can help you to formulate answers if you have questions, debugging, and of course I said creative writing. So it's really, there are a lot of things that this ChatGPT can do. And, there are advantages. So let's look at some of the advantages, because I do not want for us to, for this discussion to be everything bad. There are advantages as well of AI. As anything else, Andre, technology, with the growth in technology and the expansion, there's so many things that we could do now that we couldn't do before. So it's fantastic. Our brains, the way humans have been able to develop things, and it's great.
As you said that, I've been following the war in Gaza, and I think the Israelis are using AI,
of course,
to
everybody
hone in on where those Hamas individuals are and so on. That's right. Scary.
So whereas these things are fantastic, they also pose so many threats, and so.
And are you aware that Mark Zuckerberg? He's now planning to build a super intelligence machine, which goes beyond human beings' capability, the intelligence of human beings. Yes, he's very serious about it.
Yes, of course. The thing about it is that as knowledge increased, Andre, we get we get more savvy, we get more pompous, and we believe that we are God. But that's where the mistake is, right? So even though all these things happen, and I mean, I'm for technology, I'm for, improvement and, and expansion, and because there's so many things that these things they have added so much value, especially with health treatments, cancer and research, so there's a lot of pros or advantages, like I said.
Yes. The danger is that when these things get into the hands of the wrong people,
exactly,
they use it to do bad things,
to the detriment of us.
Yes.
Andre, share the numbers, because
sure.
I'm hoping that our callers can engage us.
Okay, the fixed line is 572-9710. Fixed line 572-9710, or you can WhatsApp 287-0971. WhatsApp is 287-0971. So again, the fixed line is 572-9710, or WhatsApp 287-0971. Back to you, Lotus.
Okay, great. So let's look at some of the pros of using ChatGPT, right? The pros. So we're going to talk about how it helps us. It improves accessibility to education. So it removes barriers for people with disabilities and not non-English speakers. For instance, ChatGPT can speak out responses for students with sight impairments. It can also summarize the topics or concepts from a course for students with learning disabilities. In addition, it enables students who have trouble typing or using a keyboard to speak out their queries. So there are various other benefits of ChatGPT. It can translate English content for students into a language that they are comfortable with, thus enabling them to understand their course material easily. So of course, these are things, especially with the children who had, we had problems with helping children with sight issues, whether they could, articulate. Now with these technological advances, these things, these students can have a better opportunity at the quality of their lives, right? It enhances the quality of their lives because now they can do certain things quicker, they can understand certain things, they can take part in certain things. So in terms of education, it really helps in that regard. It also helps with homework. They're saying in a traditional scenario, students typically, their textbooks and they use the textbooks and the internet for relevant assignment material. So unlike this,
sorry to disturb you. Have a call.
I have a call.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's great.
Okay, this is Unrestricted with Lotus.
Good morning. Welcome to Unrestricted.
Morning.
Good morning.
Yeah. I just like to share some of my insight. When it comes to AI,
Mm-hmm.
the devil doesn't use any old tricks. Everything that the devil does now, he's done it before. He's just doing it in a different way, shape, or form.
Okay.
I cannot quote the Bible verbatim, but do you remember those fallen angels who came to have sex with the ladies on earth and they had children with them, and God wiped them out? It is just the devil's form again of mixing human beings with some kind of alien forces, and that is what God doesn't like or accept. So AI is just another trick of the devil when it comes to that. Not another trick, the same trick in a different way and form.
Okay.
That's my opinion. Yeah.
All right. Thank you. I don't know what to say about that one, Andre. Well, I mean, the thing about it is that everybody have their opinions, and he has his own way of looking at it, and there's merit to what he thinks, and sometimes we don't always agree to everything some of our callers believe, but that's for a deeper discussion. But this morning we want to talk about a ChatGPT and how it helps, our students. We were talking about it helps with homework. So when students type questions for an assignment on ChatGPT, the latter responds with explanations and examples. It provides students with an alternative way of answering the assignment questions, and it also offers academic phrases, terms, and sentence structures relevant to a particular context. And as a result, it enriches the students' academic vocabulary and writing skills. And it's supposed to do that, Andre. That's one of the advantages they're saying. I believe that it is supposed to do that. However, I have my reservations in terms of enhancing. Yes, it does to a certain extent, but we're going to get into why I think at times, even with that, some of the students can be at a disadvantage. But we're going to talk about the pros, so let's stick to the pros for now. It provides assistance to the educators. So before, we had to write everything, we had to print so many things as teachers, as counselors, assistants. So now they're saying using ChatGPT in higher education, it can assist professors in multiple ways. It can help develop a comprehensive lesson plan for a course, which is fantastic because before, everything was done from scratch, which was nice because it does have its merit when you have to sit and you have to understand everything you're doing, so you can put it together. But now, at a snap of a finger, you can have a course outline, which is nice. So you can now go down into the different areas and see what exactly you have to discuss with the children. So it saves time. It can generate a variety of questions in terms of true and false questions, which is nice. So you don't have to go through the whole process of preparing exams, tests, quick tests, fill in the blanks, It can analyze students' assignments and aid teachers in grading and providing constructive feedback. It can provide access to links containing additional education resources for a course. It can offer tips and tricks for increasing students' engagement and reducing troublesome behavior in the classroom. So that's what they're saying. It can assist educators in putting their materials together and saving time, which is a good thing, because it would mean that the teachers would be able to spend more time explaining, spend more time interacting with the children and engaging, so that they understand the lesson a little better. So I think that's a good advantage. It personalizes learning. So ChatGPT can understand students' learning styles, providing a personalized learning experience. And that's fun. That's great, Andre, because all of us don't learn the same way. And in a classroom where you get lost sometimes, in a classroom with 30, 35, 40 students, you don't really understand what's going on. So this is actually really nice that it can personalize your learning. So based on how you take things and based on how you express yourself or understand things, it can personalize that. It can analyze students' academic performance and structure the course to meet their requirements. So through ChatGPT, students can learn at a comfortable pace and thoroughly understand complex concepts, so they can quickly access additional educational content by uniquely interacting with text-based research or learning material through ChatGPT. So it really breaks down concepts for students who have a harder time understanding certain things. So those students who get the point pretty quickly, they can move on. But those students who have a hard time understanding, unraveling it, ChatGPT can really take you through the process. That's what they're saying, because of course it interacts with you almost like a person is speaking to you. So that's another good advantage, I believe. It helps with exam preparation, like I said before. So when exams are around the corner, it can help students prepare. It can recapitulate their class notes and emphasis on key terms, so it can help them form an ideal answer to an important question. In addition, it can generate practice questions to help students become aware of their strengths and weaknesses based on the subject matter. So I guess in terms of studying, they're saying that it helps students study as well, so they can break down. But do our students really take the time and use ChatGPT for that? So that's my concern, that in spite of having all those advantages and being able to do these things, how do we encourage our students to use ChatGPT in a way that is sustainable for them, so that they're able to use critical thinking, they're able to improve on their vocabulary, they're able to express themselves in a way that we know, okay, they're really, growing? How do we encourage them? Because nowadays, Andrea, you see the students nowadays, a lot of them are so lazy. They like ChatGPT because they can go to it quickly and get things done. But are they really soaking in what they're doing? Are they really understanding what's really going on? So that's my biggest concern. So we're gonna go now into take a detailed look into the disadvantages, right? One, they're saying, is the lack of understanding and context. So ChatGPT is trained on vast amounts of text data, but it doesn't possess true understanding or the ability to reason like humans. You see? And that's where I think one of the things where we get lost. Because even though you have questions and you ask it and it comes back, it's not a human, it's not a person. So that emotion, it lacks that. The context, it gets lost sometimes. So for instance, you take a set of questions from ChatGPT, you give it to some young people to answer, and if they don't know the answer, they will use ChatGPT to answer, and so you will get responses that lack emotion, it lacks the context, it lacks a certain understanding, I think, because everything is so robotic, right? So for instance, let me just use an example. For instance, in pageants, it is discouraged to use ChatGPT to ask young ladies or young men questions, because then if you ask them the questions and they use ChatGPT to respond, then it sounds so robotic, so rehearsed, that you lose that human element. You see, so that's one of the disadvantages. I think that we have to really watch. It can struggle with complex, nuanced topics and may miss the critical details, leading to errors or inaccurate information. It can understand context, sarcasm, and subtle nuances in communication, potentially leading to misunderstandings. So you see what I said. So in spite of it doing all these things in terms of helping us put our exams together and do all these things, it doesn't have that human element. It cannot be sarcastic with you, although it can be sassy. Sometimes people ask the questions, even to Siri, and Siri gives you back an answer that you say to yourself, That's the way Siri is answering me. But still, because it's not human, it does not have that extra element, that emotional touch that we're looking for. And that, I think, for me, Andre, that's a big disadvantage for me. They're also saying that there's bias and misinformation. So ChatGPT's output can reflect biases present in the training data, leading to unfair or discriminatory responses. It can generate misinformation or fake news, especially when dealing with topics where information is not readily available or verified. So you see at the same time too, what is our level of reliability on ChatGPT, right? Because if it doesn't have all the information that it can pull to really answer your question, you now might be misinformed. You will probably have information that is not the best information to rely on, and it also can give you fake news as well, based on what data that it's pulling that information from. So that's another thing that we have to be mindful of, that even if you're using it, there are things that you may not want to always use it for, or you may want to add your own element of doing research and understanding what you really want to know before you can just use it and run with it. So that's another disadvantage, Andre. You with me, Andre?
I'm right there.
Okay. So one of the other things they talk about, I touched it briefly, was the limitations on emotional intelligence and creativity. That is like major. When I was doing the research, I thought, thank goodness that this is there. ChatGPT lacks emotional intelligence and the ability to understand or express emotions effectively. It may struggle to capture the creative or artistic nuances that are essential in human expression. So while it can generate text in various styles, it may not always be able to match a specific brand, voice, or tone. And I think that's where the students really fall off the wagon. Because even in their homework, right, you give students homework and they use ChatGPT to answer. So there's a lot of plagiarism. There's a lot of cheating. And when that begins to get out of hand, Andre, the children are more dumb than anything else. It means that they still cannot express themselves using their own emotions or even connecting to their emotions enough to express what they really feel, or even to answer an exam question to the extent that they understand the subject matter. And that, I think, is critical in ensuring that our students do not run with ChatGPT to the extent where they don't connect to the class, they don't connect to the subject. Right? So when they come out of school, for instance, Andre, we have a lot of degrees now, degrees and masters and PhDs. As a matter of fact, I think over the last 10 to 15 years, we've seen a great improvement and increase in our academic degrees, right? However, many managers will tell you, or teachers or professors will tell you, that there's a problem in terms of execution. So you would have an engineer, you know how we give our own people jokes. So we say, who built the road, or who did that? Was it an engine fire? So now our engineers have to feel really, they have to start looking to say, am I being, looked at as somebody who didn't do my degree well, or do I know what I'm doing? You know what I mean? Because if you have a degree in a particular field, it is expected that you will be able to execute what you've learned in a way that is sustainable, right? So if you're a critical writer, you're a creative writer, you're a dancer, you're a teacher, it is expected that you will be able to do your job in a way that people can learn and people can grow and glean from what you. But you hear a lot of people saying, well, this person have a degree, but I don't understand how she cannot express herself in that field. And a lot of it is because there's a lot of plagiarism, there's a lot of taking of information, again, using even ChatGPT, where people just use information, answer questions, and then at the end of the day, they've not connected to the subject material. And they even argue with the professors. I mean, I have friends that teach at universities are having a tough time now because when the assignments are given, students answer the questions using ChatGPT, and you can see now the professors now use certain tools to discover whether you've used AI to answer the questions. And most of the questions are 100%, sometimes 100% used, with some research. And we have a call?
Yes, we do. This is Unrestricted.
Hello, good morning.
Hello. Hi.
Hi, good morning.
Good
Welcome
morning,
to
how are you?
Unrestricted.
I notice nobody's calling.
Well, maybe they're just listening.
I'm just thinking that maybe this issue begins in, let's say, in our primary school setting.
Mm-hmm.
Because I have a son who's currently in grade 4 at primary school.
Mm-hmm.
And I find we don't teach our children to think for themselves.
Mm.
Basically, we're still on the learn to regurgitate in our primary school settings. So the children, when they're at school and they're being taught topics, it is not taught in a way that it can be replicated in anything that they're doing in society or make connections with what they see on a everyday basis. They are taught to learn it because I'm going to ask you later and I would need for you to repeat exactly what I told you. And even the few students you find that will understand something and be able to regurgitate in a sense that they've applied the settings around them in a way that will tell you, yes, I understand the concept to the point where I can link it to something. These children usually get these answers wrong because they did not give the teacher exactly what the teacher gave to them. So I don't think
very
it's
interesting
fair to expect a child in that kind of environment to grow on to be doing a master's degree or even a bachelor's, and for them now to learn to understand when all throughout their school years and everything they've been exposed to is learn to regurgitate. And I hear Andre speak all the time about countries like Germany and some of these countries where clearly the way they apply their teaching methods is different. You are taught from the start. Even in places like China and Japan, you are taught a lot of life skills.
That's right.
So when you go out there, you are prepared not just to regurgitate what is taught in the classroom, but you are taught to be able to survive in an environment that you will have to live in.
That's right.
So I think the problem began in the first exposure to a classroom when these children go to preschool. Because back in the day when we went to preschool, for example, we were taught to write our names.
Yes.
We were taught a lot of things
Yes.
that would help us when we enter kindergarten. Now, when children go to preschool, they don't focus on these things. They focus more on the motor skills, and then the children get to grade K and they cannot write their names.
That's right.
That would never happen back in the day with less resources available to us. Now, ChatGPT, I use it myself, but
Yeah.
I use ChatGPT as, let's say you're building a house.
Yeah.
You want an idea as to how to go about building the house. So I'm given something to do. I want an idea in terms of how I'm going to approach it. So I go into ChatGPT and get ideas which I use to develop to create whatever it is I'm creating. So these things are good. And I find we complain about them in terms of the schools. Like you find a lot of the secondary schools right now, the teachers are saying that the children are using
ChatGPT.
to do the assignment.
Yeah.
But you've not given them the tools to be able to approach the assignment in a way that you would have wanted them to.
Yes.
Because all throughout their lives, all you've been teaching them, I'm going to tell you something, and 3 months down the line, I want you to repeat it. And I want you to repeat it just the way I told it to you. Do not think of what your mother said. Do not include what somebody else said. Give it to me, just because guess what? The teachers are of the same mindset.
Yes, exactly.
They are given these lesson plans, and they're supposed to go strictly by that. So if the children give them anything beyond what was given in the lesson plan, that child is automatically wrong. And that child is not given any guidance and say, you know what, I believe you may be coming from a good place. However, as per the school guidelines, this is what I expect of you. But you're not wrong. You're not wrong. But in this environment, this is the preferred answer.
Yeah. You're very right.
This is my whole opinion on the whole thing. I believe we cannot avoid ChatGPT
of course
at
not,
this point in time. I think it is actually good. What I think we need to do as educators, for example, is to show our children how to use it in the right manner.
Yes.
How to get the best out of it, combining your creativity with what is now available to you. So you have additional resources, use the resources. However, I need you to also combine those resources with what is happening in your environment, what you're exposed to, what you've learned. So use that to create something bigger and better. Because that's the intention.
Thank you. That was a really that was like, I really enjoyed your contribution for sure.
You're welcome.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Have a wonderful day.
You too.
All right, bye-bye.
That was a significant contribution. One of the things I find, she spoke about is the assessment of teachers. I think that is really missing from the whole equation, because when you have teachers and educators just giving information using the tools that they've been given, or the principal or whatever the curriculum asks for, they use it in a way that does not offer any critical thinking itself. So the teachers themselves, based on what they give to the students, they are not adding that help in terms of allowing the students to be creative, for them to think, for them to be flexible. And that's what she was talking about, that when you ask for an answer, if the child does not answer in the exact way, you give it to the child wrong. You understand? So the child doesn't have that opportunity to be flexible and to think and to produce anything of great importance. So definitely that contribution was on point. They're talking about the academic integrity. There's academic integrity concerns when it comes to ChatGPT. So using ChatGPT for academic work without proper attribution can lead to plagiarism and academic misconduct. It can mask learning deficiencies, and it can make it difficult for educators to assess a student's true understanding of the subject matter. So even the academic integrity is in question if you're just using ChatGPT and you're not allowing the students to really come into the subject matter. And I think basically that's what the caller was alluding to, that the way we teach children now. And so it's almost like a laziness on the educator's part. Right, Andre? Because if you as a parent, and again, some parents are not into this. Some parents do not take the time now to review with their children or to even see what work is being done. And if the parents are not savvy that way, then you have the teachers now giving the children things that come from maybe ChatGPT or the internet, or just pull the information, and the students now are responding that way. There's nobody reviewing. Who is reviewing what the student is doing? And the educator themselves, how are they being assessed? That's one of the things I find I'm always concerned about, Andre.
You have a call.
Hello, good morning,
Okay,
Lotus.
we'll come back to that.
Hello, good morning.
Hello, good morning. Welcome
Good
to
morning,
Unrestricted.
Andre. Morning, Lotus.
Morning.
Good morning.
Lotus, what I've noticed in what you were saying,
Mm-hmm.
and I've noticed around, even in the architectural, environment,
Mm-hmm.
I find right now they make a lot of error. They have to change it, turn it around, do this, do that. And to me, that didn't used to happen before. Okay, they build a bridge.
Mhm.
The bridge wasn't done properly. It was too high, it was too low. They have to break it down, they have to cut it short. You understand?
Yes.
And to me, sometimes I say, although we have all of that technology, but we have what we call common sense too, There are some things that we just have to use our common sense, even with the education that we get in.
Yes.
Let me give you an example, Lotus. I want you to, when last you went to SNS?
Maybe sometime last week.
Okay, so you're familiar with coming out of SNS, right?
Yes.
There's a little roundabout just there coming out of SNS. Lotus, in your mind, how are you coming out of SNS able to go around that little thing and then go to town? Your mind not telling you as an engineer, you have to bring it down a little lower. Going down to Castries, bring it down a little lower. So whoever is coming from SNS then can turn around, because let us say it's somebody for a long truck, a long back.
Mm-hmm.
You understand?
Yeah.
How are you going to go around? You know what? A lot of people do. They cannot go around because it's too narrow.
Yeah.
So what they do, they just go in front of it and just move out. Now, when you do that, you can get in an accident because motorcyclists, they're not cognizant of you coming out. They can just come into you because they're in a hurry to go.
Yeah.
You understand?
Yeah.
So I think common sense, we all have that. Common sense, and this is what we're not making our children use.
Yes.
You make them use the Google and the different things, but we don't make them use their minds. And so sometimes even when you speak to children, young people, not young people alone, but people who use those technological gadgets, many times you listen to them speak and you say to yourself, this is exactly coming from a gadget.
Yes.
But for them to think for themselves, common sense is not expensive, huh? So I think another thing that we need to add into that is common sense. Now, I want, when you're coming out of SNS, to observe what I'm talking about.
Yes, for sure.
Have a good day.
Thank you so much. You too. Thank you. Additionally, we were talking about the fact that one of the disadvantages as well is the over-reliance and the dependence on ChatGPT. Students and others who heavily rely on ChatGPT may become overly dependent on the technology, potentially hindering the development of their own skills. It can lead to a decline in human interaction, especially in educational settings, and weaken valuable teacher-student relationships. And so that's what we were talking about a while ago. I think one of the callers, I think the caller before was talking about the fact that students do not get to interact with their teachers enough. We have another call?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Okay.
Hi, good morning, Andre.
Hello, good morning.
Morning.
And good morning.
Good morning, Lotus. Good morning. Morning to Lotus. Yes.
Morning. I've been following you.
Thank you.
The lady before spoke about education, about when you're in infant school and preschool, right?
Yeah.
I want someone to explain to me why is that in infant school I could write my name. I knew my timetables, I knew my alphabet.
Mm-hmm.
And now you find children in secondary school that know the alphabet, cannot write the names. Sometimes I have to think that probably I was just bright and some people are lazy.
Mm-hmm.
But to me that was a normal thing. That was in the 50s or late 50s. I went to preschool, I went to infant school. You understand me?
Yeah.
We had a slate, in those days, we had a slate, we had a pencil. Not a lead pencil, a slate and pencil to write in penmanship.
Mm-hmm.
Alright? Now, I find that even, for example, this cursive writing that we did is one of the things that causes problems in the civil status registry, because the French priests and them used to write it, with the style, like a K, not just a K, a L and a E. And the children cannot even differentiate those things. So could you explain to me why that is so? Given all the technology that we have.
Yeah.
Hello?
I think even though we have the technology, I also think is the techniques, teaching techniques, is something that I think we should, put a little bit more emphasis on, because it's not necessarily using the slit. I don't know that I would still want to be using a slit today. However, the techniques in terms of critical thinking, which is what we learned before, our teachers and our parents allowed us to think as well. We were dropped into the deep end of the pool and we had to learn to swim. Now, I'm not saying that we cannot have resources or we don't have resources now, but we don't give our students the ability to think, to open up their minds.
Did you use a slate and pencil?
No, I didn't use that. I'm not so old.
Honestly, because I graduated from slate and pencil. When you write, you have a slate. You from school, you write with your slate, and then it erase it right away.
Yeah.
So there's not an exercise book, etc. You have to, and then you graduate with pen and paper, like pencil and paper. So therefore, it is a initiation. You move from one to the other.
One to the next, yeah.
And that is why, so we have to write lines and do your alphabet, etc. If it's wrong, you have to do it over again. You don't have to get paper. Now, you said something earlier about our engineers, etc. Honestly, I believe because people don't have pride, they don't have self-esteem. Because when you do something, to be a carpenter was a lowly paid person, tradesman. Yet, when you take your shoe to a cobbler, because it's pride and joy to give you a good shoe, a good repair work, a joiner give you a good table, you understand me? To me, we have no pride in our work. You know what I mean? And it's not just ordinary people. Civil servants only have no pride in what they're doing.
So you think it's more pride than...
What's that?
You think it's more pride than the actual learning?
I know persons that went to school university. They have the know-how, they have the knowledge. They don't have the commitment to do what they were taught.
Okay.
All right, so when I hear about engineers, the road is right. No engineers are trained that they must take measurement, etc. before they could do it. Right? Man, you just have to look at the different alternatives and look at the best possible things. They are taught those things. Just start with us talking about Cuban trained doctor. All of them went to Cuba, the same school with the Cubans we have down here. Family doctors, they look follow up, they come and do visits. They were trained that way in Cuba. They come to San Jose, they don't do it. It's not because they don't have the know-how. You understand me? People, as you said, they know, they teach them, they have the latest techniques, right? They know it is applying what they are taught. And sometimes we said about creativity. When we shoot our own kites, our own tops, our own cowboys, our own bats, our own balls. Boys were creative, children were creative, you understand me?
Yeah.
Their own doors, etc. They take that away from us. So therefore, how can our children be creative? People play bat, a coconut thing falls, you cut it and you make a bat and you play in cricket with your friends. We make it ourselves. That was your pride and joy. That's my bat. I make my bat. When you don't do it, you know what they say? When you don't work for it, you don't. When you don't work for it, you do not appreciate it. Right? I think when we were children, we appreciated more that it was our kite, our top, our cowboy. So I don't know how we're going to do it to the children. Right? But clearly, what I'm seeing now with children, imagine the time. I know people are in the secondary school, I don't know time, we cannot tell them time on a clock. I need to figure out that is impossible, I cannot think of that. But it is reality. Right? I know a young fellow, 20 years, he can't read, he don't know the alphabet.
Oh boy.
I know about those people, and I feel sorry for those people. But at the same time, you said something too about the teachers, right? Because our teachers were committed. Our teachers wanted us to learn. That's a commitment. That when you fail, I feel embarrassed. I want my children to pass. If I don't have a commitment, right? You feel pass, you pass, you fail, you fail. Right? And that is not just, how do I say it, man? Andre?
Right, I'm here, sir.
Tell me how you feel, man, when you do your work. You feel proud, you understand me? You talk about how your days, etc. Because you're professional, right? Never just doing it for doing sake. No pride and joy in that, man. Anyway,
Okay.
thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you so much to our callers. I know that we have to wrap up, Andre. I know the time goes by so quickly when we're having fun. But really, the discussion around this is to see how teachers, parents can play a part or get into the conversation when it comes to ChatGPT. Don't let ChatGPT take over. I mean, it is here to stay. It is here to stay, just like the computer, just like, we have technological advances, we have new cars, we have, so we are increasing in knowledge, we are increasing in the know-how of many things, but we have to be committed to keeping the conversation going when it comes to getting the children to connect with us as teachers and connect with us as parents. So parents really have to get into the conversation as well, so that when you discuss with young people and you hear how they're responding to things, you can get into helping them to think better, asking them the critical questions, so that they're not only giving you ChatGPT responses and they're not going to a place of dependence on it. And our teachers as well have to get away from being lazy and using ChatGPT to do everything for them. They themselves have to get away from that, so that they don't get the same responses from your students, because the students are very smart. If you give the students ChatGPT questions, guess what? They will look for ChatGPT answers, right? So we have to be creative as teachers, as educators, as well. And we can use the ChatGPT tools. We use it for certain things, like the caller says, and we have to use it sparingly, in the sense that give the students and give people an opportunity to think for themselves as well, to come up with ideas. Because I think as humans, we do have the ability to come up with ideas. That's why we came up with ChatGPT, right? Give us an opportunity to think. Give us an opportunity to interact and to express, Andre. Because the more we use these tools, the more we become more silent. And then we will lose the ability to communicate. Because now people cannot even say to you what they really want, because they're so reliant on a robot to express that. Even in dating, Andre, men and women go to ChatGPT to ask questions to their significant other or to a woman they want to date, or now I'm not saying it's not good, Andre, but when you're on site, you think ChatGPT is in the conversation? When you're on site with a woman or a man, you have to be able to ask her questions about the mole on her face, or the smile, the twitch in the corner of her lips. I don't think ChatGPT can give you that.
But Lotus, didn't we have all these problems before ChatGPT? We had all these issues.
Worse, Andre.
People couldn't express themselves.
We had some of these issues, but not what the research is showing. It was not as profound. We were losing the emotional connection. Andre, we had emotional connection. People used to cry all the time. Andre, when the girl broke your heart, you used to cry. Feel bad about it. Because you felt it. You felt the intimacy and you felt the passion. What ChatGPT does is that everything is now so stoic, Andre. That is why we don't feel. We become more... we are desensitized when it comes to our feelings. So now when you call a girl and she rejects you, Andre, you say, okay, and you just continue moving. There's no connection. So we're not connecting. We're losing that connectivity. That's what they're saying. And when we continue to lose that connectivity, Andre, we're gonna go crazy. We will go mad, Andre, because we were not created to be so stoic and so unfeeling. That's what I'm saying.
But what I'm saying, I don't really agree with that kind of thinking, because we always had those issues, Lotus. They were always there.
I don't think so. I don't agree with you, Andre.
I mean, there are people who just, as you said, they're just emotionally disconnected for whatever reason that they're that
so,
way.
So, Andre, you telling me back in the day people were disconnected?
What makes
people
you think?
People were in love, Andre.
What
people
makes you think it was any different?
No, Andre. I think we were expressing more before. We were expressing less. The research is showing that. It's not only the research, but if you look at, even with the evolution of the phone, I mean, you know families are less connected to each other. They just don't speak. And if you don't speak, Andre, when you don't use a tool, Andre, you lose it.
Remember also, Lotus, a lot of this research is done in, those developed countries. Remember that as well, huh?
But Andre, you can look at your own experiences, Andre. even though you look at research in big countries, you can look on the ground in your own experience and see the way we behave.
But that's what I'm saying.
It is reflective
Lotus,
in our
I do
crime
not,
rates.
I don't behave like that.
You don't behave like that,
Exactly.
Andre, but you see it, Andre.
I'm not the only one.
But Andre, you complain about the way people behave, the way how people are
those people
more disconnected. People are very selfish.
In those first world countries,
no,
I'm talking
Andre,
about.
right here,
No,
we
I
are
don't
very very selfish.
I don't see
Andre,
that
you don't meet people here that are selfish.
I mean, listen, we're not a perfect country. We have our issues, as anything else. But when I speak about those things, these are things that are happening in other more developed
things
countries.
Like what?
For example, look in the United States right now. There's a loneliness crisis taking place in the U.S.
And you don't think we're lonely here?
I'm not saying no, but for it to become a crisis,
I think it's becoming a crisis here. People just don't tell you. Listen, loneliness is there's a difference between wanting to be alone and loneliness and being lonely. People, when we begin to disconnect, Andre, not only in the U.S., in every part of the world, when you begin to disconnect with each other,
only in the U.S. I said
lose
in
it.
more developed countries.
But Andre,
because
on a per
these
capita
people
basis,
on
we're still suffering.
Another level. It'd be interesting to find out, how teachers, because you kept talking about interaction with teachers and students and so on. How do our teachers feel about this sort of thing for true? Have we tried to find out?
Find out what?
How they truly feel about this whole issue about chat box and using AI, and how do they really feel? Are they echoing the same findings that you have there? Well,
you look at the performance of the students. You look at the students and the interactions with your interactions with the students. You listen to people in trying to find people to fill in positions, the jobs. You listen to managers who telling you that young people coming out with their degrees cannot express themselves. They're more robotic. They're more disconnected to what they're able to do. You hear a lot of people saying they cannot get plumbers, they cannot get people interested in certain fields because they're not interested. They do not communicate. Their inability to express, even to teach, to pass on the baton to teach, people have a problem doing that. So it is reflective in your day-to-day interactions and what you see existing amongst the students, and the teachers can tell you that. The teachers are telling you that. Some teachers are committed. There are some teachers that are committed and some teachers that do not care for the commitment. So you see it in the reflection of your grades, of your degrees that you have, but yet we cannot do things at a level that is stellar. So just because you are committed to your work, when you look at it's a domino effect. When you live here and you go out there and you cannot get that level of success on the same commitment level that you have it, you know that. So I mean, come on, don't make it look like we yes, we're not perfect, but we are reflective of a lot of the things that happen around the world. That is why we do not make the strides that we should be making. So I'm just saying, we have to, everything is about balance. We talk about balance. So whereas I'm saying that chat GPT is a good thing and it has many advantages, we have to take a look. We have to step back and take a look at the disadvantages and what it is going to cause or causing for us as people.
Okay, we have to wrap up.
Every now and again we can have a little fight.
Of course.
Yes, so that's what I wanted to talk about. Thank you so much. I really enjoyed the discussion actually.
Thank you very much, Lotus, for your service as always. And God willing, we'll see you next week, Wednesday, right?
Yes, for sure.
I believe it's a holiday tomorrow, so have yourself a safe holiday.
Okay.
You're not aware?
I didn't even realize
I just
I'm into the Calypso.
I just checked chat GPT.
Actually, you have to be very careful with that too, because one of the things ChatGPT does is put all your business out. That's a good one, Andrea. So ChatGPT told you we have a holiday tomorrow. Tomorrow, that's a holiday?
Yes, it is.
I didn't even know that. Okay, well, I definitely need it.
All right. Well, thank God for ChatGPT. Otherwise, you go to work tomorrow.
You got me on that one.
All right,
okay.
Lotus. Yes.
Enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you so much. This was Unrestricted,
well.
and see you next week, Wednesday.
Same time, 9 o'clock until 10 for another Unrestricted hosted by Lotus. Okay, now stand by for Hard Drive. That's coming up next. Please stay tuned. Those of you on Facebook, YouTube, and X, we'll just take a little break and get back to you in just a moment.